I was not a model student myself, unfortunately. When I came to college, I did struggle and I had those challenges. But I also found those people that were instrumental in helping to keep me engaged with my higher education journey.
I'm in it for the transformation that can take place, because when change happens, a ripple effect occurs, and it impacts families, communities, and future generations.
We want to see students come to our college and get the credential that they want and need to have to change their lives and their families' lives and their own trajectory.
For many, education's the bridge from, say, like their current state to their aspirational state. And I like to know that I had a hand in helping someone take a step towards, that future self.
Having AI at our disposal is all about meeting students where they are.
AI isn't about replacing the human side, but instead amplifying it.
It's able to take a lot of the redundancy out of the day-to-day of the admissions counselor work that a lot of time was ultimately dreaded.
That helps our team concentrate on complex problems when students call rather than answering simple questions.
I do what I do to open the doors of opportunities that may never have existed before, because those opportunities ultimately transform lives.
Visit element451.com and discover how a digital workforce can help empower your team to focus on what really matters.
She reminded us that just 5 users can identify 85% of usability issues, and that every spicy click tells a story about where our sites confuse, frustrate, or mislead.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters. Fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. On today's episode, we're talking about why so many college websites fail their own usability tests and what to do about it. From buried buttons to broken task flows, students are struggling to complete even the simplest actions online. The fix isn't another redesign, it's testing your site with real humans. With me today is Melanie Lindahl, Senior UX and Web Designer at the University of Texas at Austin School of Law. She's spent more than 2 decades turning complex systems into clean, human-centered digital experiences, from smarter registration tools to intuitive dashboards that actually help students. Melanie is also a 2-time back-to-back Red Stapler winner from the Digital Collegium Annual Conference, recognized for making usability and accessibility not just design principles, but campus priorities. Melanie, welcome to the Pulse, or I should say, welcome back to the Pulse.
That's right. That's how it happens, right? I can get invited back if you're okay, but you're okay.
Well, at least this time, we're not sitting on like a staircase huddled together in a corner, like passing a microphone back and forth, because that's what we were doing last year.
I know. With our shoes off, because we had enough of shoes for the day.
Oh my gosh, yes. Listeners, if you haven't heard my last recording with Melanie, I actually got to her before she won Best of Conference at Digital Collegium, and now I've got her back. We're going to be breaking down a lot of stuff, but I did run into Melanie, of course, at Digital Collegium last month. And Melanie, I am sure as a Red Stapler winner, you were the golden nugget for a lot of people. Aww. But what was your golden nugget coming out of the event?
Yeah, I would say the main one was there was plenty of AI discussion, plenty of AI talks. They were really good.
Yes.
And the thing that I walked away with was, holy moly, we need a content audit for our law school because Gen AI is going to be serving up our prospective students with who knows what. I need to go figure this out. So that's what I've been working on in the last few weeks here.
Oh my gosh, it is true. I feel like AI showed up in almost every presentation I went to, whether or not it was in the AI track, which really says something to me about how, X number of years off of ChatGPT's release. Like, we're finally here, higher ed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is time to crawl out from under our rocks. Like, we are here. And if you missed it, listeners, I actually interviewed Adam, who was the Best of Conference winner. And that episode dropped a few weeks ago. He did talk about getting ready for Gen AI. So if you're sitting here thinking like, ooh, I might need to get ready, go listen to that episode. But we are here today with Melanie, and at this year's Digital Collegium, she brought the house down again with her session, Don't Let Your Website Flunk. It was a crash course in how user testing can rescue higher ed websites from themselves. Melanie walked through her 4-part roadmap: find, prepare, test, and analyze, showing how even small, scrappy tests can uncover the biggest design flaws. She reminded us that just 5 users can identify 85% of usability issues, and that every spicy click tells a story about where our sites confuse, frustrate, or mislead. Her message was clear. You're not testing the user, you're testing the system you built. And today, she's going to unpack that framework and teach us how to turn testing into a culture of empathy, trust, and better design. Now, Melanie, you've spent years building digital tools that make life easier for both students and staff members. When was that aha moment for you when you first realized that even, this pretty well-designed website is still actually failing the users?
Yeah. And okay, so there's plenty to choose from. There's oodles of delightful websites out in the wild, online applications, tons of bells and whistles. But it's things that I notice myself as a user. It's my banking app. It's the online shopping, all the things that I do online. My poor husband is hearing me talk about bad UX in our personal lives constantly. He's, okay, we got it. Yes, it's bad. So even lovely things miss the mark. And unfortunately, we just had a big one happen, right? Apple's new liquid glass design pattern. Whoo! That's kind of bad UI for people who need a higher contrast than what that default provides. So unfortunately, these problems are everywhere. And we've all experienced them. And so once you start seeing them, they just keep flooding and flooding and flooding. So that's it. You just notice it in your personal life all the time. You're like, I got to make this better.
That does make me feel a little bit better if Apple can't even get it right. Okay, that does make me feel better. Misery loves company. So you opened your session with a very bold line. Knowing your users isn't the same as knowing what they do. When did that distinction really click for you? And how has that changed the way that you approach design work?
Okay, it clicks every single time I test. Every time. You always learn something new that you didn't expect during user testing. It's one of the reasons why it's so much fun. And once you experience that even one time, you realize, wow, we have to test these things continually with users or we're really going to be missing the mark. So the first time was every single time. I'm amazed at what I did wrong or how I'm not doing it correctly in some way.
So you have absolutely convinced me that, testing is not this luxury or nice to have. But before we even get into your framework and breaking it all down, right, we need to build buy-in internally and a culture of testing. So, pretend I'm your CMO or your president. How are you convincing me that this is a strategic imperative?
Honestly, I'm not sure I do. For user testing.
I love that.
Yeah. And the reason I don't is because I don't actually ask for your permission. So user testing, it should be done throughout your project lifecycle. Like all these little iterations, all these touch points with users are very paramount to getting it right. And so it's really just simply part of a strong development lifecycle. So why would I ask permission to do something the right way? So I don't. I just work it into the project timeline and problem solved. I didn't have to talk to anybody. So I'm not sure I really have an answer to that question because I don't think I actually do it that way.
I think this is why I like you so much, Melanie, because that's the approach I would honestly take too, because, right, we know, if you just build it in, you've built in the space for it, and the data is going to be so rich coming out of that user testing that any skeptic out there would hopefully be able to be just convinced by the data. Like there's no opinions there. Data is just data.
Data is data. Yeah. And watching users, I put a lot of these little compilation videos in my talk because they're incredibly powerful. So if you really are having a hard time convincing somebody, make one of those little compilation videos time after time where the product is failing the user, rapid succession, fail, next one, fail, next one. Like those are very compelling and it shows the problem very clearly.
Yeah. So let's dig into your framework, right? That was kind of the backbone of your session. We're going to use that framework to kind of guide the rest of our conversation today. But let's just start at the basics, like give listeners the quick overview, and then we'll take each step in turn.
Okay. Well, first you have to know who in the world are you actually going to be testing. So you have to figure that out. And then you have to figure out what in the world are you going to be testing and what's going to happen during your session. So you have to figure that out. And then you have to actually do the testing, which is a blast. It's my favorite. And then you have to think about what you learned and how to move forward with that information.
And as we'll get to, I feel like that's the part that we need to spend the most time on, yet we probably spend the least time on. So Melanie just broke it down. It's find, prepare, test, and analyze. Let's take the find phase first. What happens? I mean, this feels a little explanatory, but like what happens in the find phase? And one of the things that stood out to me from your session was that you talk about keeping your audience scope manageable. I feel like that could really get off the rails here. So how do you decide which user groups actually need to be tested and when to stop adding more?
Right. Well, primary user groups for sure need to be tested. And how do you determine who, like what groups there are and how many there are? So the best way that I have kind of figured this out on my own, I guess, is when I encounter users, and this is all through the research phase at the beginning of the project, when I encounter users who have very different sets of needs from each other for the thing that we're building, just for that, they should probably be in their own groups because their journeys are now different using the thing that you're building and testing, and I'll be testing them differently because of that. So sometimes we have possibly up to 4 student groups just in our law school. I don't have to necessarily test people from each group. Most of the time they're just all together because they are going to be using the product the same.
Here's a quick word from our sponsor. Southeast Missouri State University needed to launch more targeted campaigns faster, yet they were bogged down by manual campaign builds, slow approvals, and vendor overload. With Element 451, they eliminated 5 vendor tools and gained marketing superpowers in one platform. They saw a 13% increase in applications, processed applications within 2 days, and achieved 33 to 35% email open rates. The impact: personalized, automated campaigns running at scale without the drag. Ready to turn your next campaign around in hours, not weeks? Try an agent today at element451.com/agents. Melanie, you mentioned in the preparation stage that this is where the biggest mistakes can happen. So before anyone ever hits record, what is a misstep that you see teams make before they ever test?
I really feel like task bias is a big one that you have to pay attention to. When you give the user a task, even if it's verbal or written, you really might be inadvertently leading them to the thing that you want them to click on. It's kind of easy to fall into that trap. So you have to be careful with how you word them. And then the other big one is, throughout the whole project, but definitely during testing, is bringing your assumptions to the table about what users are going to be doing when you release them to test, and how they're going to behave. So you really just need to check those at the door and come in with a fresh brain.
Are you using generative AI at all in this phase of the process? Because it strikes me that it could actually help you kind of strip out some of that bias if you load your question set in.
That's a good question. That is good. I'm not doing that now, but I want to do that now that you said that. Yeah. So I am using AI in different ways, but it's not necessarily for testing specifically. I have created testing scripts, but honestly, I feel like I'm a little bit better at it right now than the AI is, just from the task bias standpoint. And I like to flow my tasks into each other, and then we come back to this thing that we did, and that is just easier to do, I think, for me right now.
Any other big tips in either the find or the prepare stages?
So there is kind of an art a little bit to task writing. There's a lot of the time where we're trying to test a very specific thing, like, oh, we've tested menus. We've tested a button in the layout one time. Are they going to find that? I probably tested that more than once. Just subtle things that you need them to make sure they get, right? Do they know that they can go edit this thing after they submit? Like, how do we test? So when you have to test those very specific things, you have to kind of lead them to use the thing that you want them to test, right? And so that's kind of an art. And so in that session, we went through some ways to do that, and it's based on the tasks that the users do. So you can use those tasks that you know that they're doing to ask them to go do certain things so that they, have to either go use it or go look at it or, something, so you can see, did it register? Did it work? So that's something that can be kind of hard to do sometimes.
Got it. And listeners, we are putting the PDF to Melanie's red stapler winning deck in the show notes for this episode. So you can find that on enrollify.org site or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And now is also a great reminder, if you're enjoying it, give me 5 stars, y'all. That's the best way to grow a podcast. Rate and review. Thanks in advance. Back to Melanie. Now, the stat that I think stops a lot of people in their tracks, and certainly might be one way if you do need to convince leadership to do this. This could be a route to that. You say that only 5 users are necessary to uncover 85% of usability issues, right? 5 tests. You could do 1 a day, you're done in a week. So I guess my question here is, I believe the stat, but that feels like a small sample size. Can you just pressure test that with me for a second?
Yeah.
Like only 5? Really?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So Nielsen Norman Group, who are leaders in UX, they have a great article on exactly this topic and what to say when people come at you with those same questions. So please go find that and read that. And we're talking about qualitative data, right? Not quantitative. So earlier in my career, in my UX career, I thought the same thing. I was like, no, surely that's not right. 5 users, it's enough. So I'm going to test 15 or 20 in one user group. It's going to be great. And then you start testing, and then the second person has the same problem, and then the third, and then the 15th, and then the 20th. You're like, I didn't need to do this much work. Oh my God. We are not getting any new information at that point. And so that's where that stat comes from. It's literally, here is the exact number to find this many problems, to find your biggest issues before you launch. It's so simple. And when you're user testing even just 5 people, by the time you get to the third person who's having the same problem, you're like, I get it. I clearly need to fix that. It's already too many, So I understand that people have a hard time wrapping their head around such a small sample size. But again, with qualitative testing, it's just about the experience and how wrong it clearly is. And it becomes so obvious by the 5th person.
So one of the things I really loved about your deck and the advice that you gave is, in your sample script, it reads, "You're not being tested. The website is." Why is that framing so critical? And what changes when the user hears that?
Oh my gosh. They are so they can be. Not every user is like this, but they can be so nervous. And when it comes, they feel like they have to complete this task. I have to do this, right? She wouldn't be giving it to me if I couldn't do it, which is also correct. But I might actually be testing something else than what I'm telling you to do, right? So, and I tell them that too. So they feel like they failed. They feel like they fail a task. And it really kind of weighs them down. And really what it is the opposite. The thing that they're testing, that is what failed. It failed them as a user. They didn't fail it. And so you have to tell them what to expect. They may never have tested before. They don't know what this is about. They don't even know what to do. And just, we're not testing you. Don't worry. As much as we love you, user, it's a dime. Whoever whoever tests, it's the same thing. I care about this product. You know, this is what I need to test right now, and you're helping me do that. So once you tell them that, they kind of relax a little bit and realize like, oh, there's going to be problems here, and I'm supposed to find them. Like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
I would need to hear that, Melanie, because I'm incredibly competitive. And if I was participating in your user test, I would be in the mindset of like, all right, I'm going to do this better than anybody else and faster and, you know, with the fewest amount of clicks or whatever. So that really resonates with me. Speaking about clicks, let's talk about spicy clicks.
Yes.
What are they? What does that mean? And what do those moments reveal about some hidden bias in the design?
So what I call spicy clicks, those are the clicks that you don't expect. You didn't expect that to happen. Those are the reasons why we test. I mean, we want to make sure they can do the things they need to do, but we also need to find the problems. And so those spicy clicks, they show you where your users are getting lost, or that UI element we assumed would work. Whoops, we came with an assumption. It actually doesn't work, or they couldn't find it, or the label wasn't right. So spicy clicks are this wonderful insight because they show us where our design or our framework is breaking for the user.
You also mentioned in your presentation that testing is as much about reading the room as it is about the actual results. So connecting that kind of to those spicy click moments, like how do you know when to lean in versus step back when you're observing that user in real time? And is there a nuance between a remote user and testing versus in person on this?
Okay. If I forget the second part, please remind me.
I will.
So leaning in versus stepping back, it's actually surprisingly simple. You're just stepping back. That's pretty much what the whole thing is you just sit there and you just watch. And it's kind of weird, but you're just watching. The user, you know, as I put it, they're driving the car. And it normally becomes pretty apparent when they're running off the road or they're losing control of the wheel. And if they're talking through what they're doing, which is what you have asked them to do during the session, if they're talking through what they're doing, you know why they're going off-road. Okay, they're on some other thing. This is so interesting. Great. I don't need to lean in. They've told me what they're doing. If they're silent, spicy clicking, like I need to lean in, remind them, hey, I need you to tell me what's going on. What are you doing? What are you looking for? Sometimes they encounter a bug too, and you actually do have to lean in and say, oh, right, that doesn't work right now. Can you click out of there or refresh your page? But otherwise, you're just stepping back. You're letting them drive, even if it's off-road. That's how they're completing the task, and you need to know that without interrupting them. So yeah, you don't actually lean in that much. It's usually stepping back.
Any nuance between testing that remote user versus the in-person?
Yes, that's interesting. So I love remote testing. Like I can't get enough of it. COVID saved my testing when I had to switch to that. In-person testing is kind of awkward. I'm not gonna lie. Like you're sitting like behind them and like leaning over their shoulder, and it's kind of, it's kind of like it's just kind of strange. People say you get more body language, in in-person testing. True, but they also might just have to pee, like me, every 5 minutes, or they might just be uncomfortable, or their back hurts from being at school all day, like whatever it is. So I don't know. I'm not a body language expert. I can't speak to that part. But with remote testing, I can see their face and their screen almost at the same time. I just have to look like this, right? Instead of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So remote testing, I think, provides me, maybe I'm different than other people, but I feel like it provides me more insight, because if they're floating around and their mouse is not doing what I think it should be doing, I'm looking at their face too. And I'm thinking like, what's going on with that brow? Like, are they trying to figure something out? Are they surprised? Like, what's going on? So I do think remote testing has more opportunity, at least for me, to engage with the facial expression and just being able to see what they're doing a lot better.
Yeah. Well, you're already kind of leading us into this last phase, the analyze phase, as you're talking about analyzing that user's expression and the way that they're kind of holding themselves during the test. Break this part of the phase down, because again, like we said, 15 minutes ago, I really suspect that this is the the fourth part, the last part, we're happy we got there and now we're just rushing through the analysis versus really sitting with the information. So how do you ensure that you are, appropriately analyzing this data?
Well, I spend a lot of thoughtful time. Like there's days where I block off 2 hours and I'm just looking. I'm just looking at data, and I like to categorize it so that's just kind of how my brain works, so I can see patterns and be reminded of certain issues that happen. Did they complete the task? Did they not? And so I kind of sit on it and I take everything that we have available to me. And that's kind of where I really look for those insights. And it might really just be a simple thing like that button didn't work. We need to figure it out. Or maybe it's more recently, it's now probably been 2 years, but there was 2 links about tuition, and one led to a main campus page and one was our page, and users had a hard time with that. Interestingly, the main campus one, they felt like wasn't like that's just a general thing, like that's not going to apply to me. I think it actually had maybe more information. I don't really remember, but I remember thinking, wow, that's so interesting. So we need to consider what to do there because they consider that not reliable, or at least not as specialized. And so, it can be tricky when it comes down to users having a problem, because let's say one person out of your 5 users they couldn't complete the task, or that it took them a while, or whatever it was. Generally, if one person out of your 5 is having like this big issue, you probably need to at least consider a change, even just a slight enhancement. 2 people have a problem, you definitely are going to have to rework something generally, because a lot more people are going to have that issue out in the wild. So, in my experience, it's more about task completion, especially if the user's talking to you a lot and giving you a lot of good feedback. I know what's going on. I know what they're thinking now. I've logged it, we've got all this information, and we can really dive into better pathways for them. But yeah, if tasks aren't being completed easily, it's time to take a careful look at your UI,
Have you ever run into the difference between all right, this is a true usability problem versus just a simple user preference? Because just listening to you there, it's all right, well, if only 1 in 5, had this issue and maybe it was just a minor issue, that might lean more, for me at least, onto the side of, no, this is just that one user's preference. Where's that line for you?
It doesn't exist, really. It can be, as I said, can be tricky because it comes down to the specific task, what happened, what did they say, what did all the other 4 people do, what did they say, did they already have a reference point for this, and this one student has never considered this task before, so it's brand new to them. That's important. Maybe we need to give better guidelines or some kind of, design element, more space, something to help make it stand out, whatever it is. So I feel like there's not a maybe there is, I just haven't found it, a tried and true, this many people out of 5, you got a problem. But generally, when I have found issues, if 2 people are having that problem, it's a problem. If one person has it, I need to take a careful look and see what happened. Yeah,
that's a great guideline. You gave a great example with the tuition link challenge. Any other examples from your work at UT Law, maybe where a result really changed the direction of a project?
Well, okay, so hopefully if you're doing testing or user discussions throughout your whole project, you don't walk away from a user acceptance testing right before you launch. You don't walk away with some project-changing feedback.
Hopefully.
I hope that's not happening for you. It hasn't happened for us because we bring users in all the time. I do have a nice little feedback. It was in my presentation last year, actually. It wasn't testing, but it was talking with students. We were enhancing this application portal for applicants, and I was talking to first-year law students, the beginning of their first semester, because it was 1 month ago you were an admitted student. I want to talk about that experience. And this one student said this one comment, and I was like, what? And the comment he made was, it was about him. He used a certain applicant tool or previous applicant portal to get information about his new classes, his schedule, all that. Great. But once he matriculated, like the first week of class, his status changed. He was admitted and now he is current, and he couldn't access that really important thing that he used was his lifeline. And we were like, what? Oh my God, we never thought about that, right? And so that one little sentence from that one student, it blew the scope of the project up into like parts unknown, like it's in outer space, probably still floating. But we broke it up into 2 projects, and it ended up being just brilliant and a wonderful thing. And it's like the #1 tool that the current students use. They love it so much.
That's amazing. Congrats on that. I mean, that's fantastic, like, to uncover that. I'm sure it was a pain in the butt to uncover it. Like,
it was really,
but at least you did.
It was really brilliant. When I had like this whiteboard, and I was just sitting there for hours, like moving cards around and stuff. And I had this revelation. I'm like, oh my God, we can do this thing, and it's going to be amazing. And it was so great.
So as we wrap this one up, if someone's listening who has never run a usability test before, but now they are inspired to go and do it, what is one small action that they can take tomorrow to start to build some momentum?
Okay. I say this a lot, and I truly mean it. Just start talking to your users. That's all. Just start the dialogue, because you're going to start hearing very quickly about pain points. And you may not be ready for that yet. You may not have anything to do with it yet. Great. Backlog it, right? Put it on the board, whatever you need to do. Keep that feedback, but you're not going to get that feedback unless you start that dialogue.
Right on. Melanie, where can folks find you if they are inspired to go and do some usability testing and they want to ask you a couple questions?
Yes, just hit me up on LinkedIn. People have been doing it. I love brainstorming with people about how to start something or how to go about a different way. And people inspire me as well. And so give me great tips as well. So hit me up.
Phenomenal. All right. Well, Melanie, it just really did go by way too quickly. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to share all of this great information with folks who might not have been able to attend your session at DigiCall this year. And hey, I look forward to having you back 3 for 3, right? Let's go. 1 year from now.
Gonna happen. Got it. Yeah.
Yes. All right, folks, we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.